It was an ordinary morning in Kabul, September 14th, 2009. The sun had not yet warmed the cracked asphalt of the road cutting through the Wardak district when the American convoy began its movement. Form wraps, armored vehicles specifically designed to survive explosions, advanced in standard formation. The soldiers inside had made that journey dozens of times. They knew every curve, every pothole, and every villager who used to wave from the side of the road. What they didn't know was what was buried 16 inches below the asphalt. It wasn't a sophisticated mine. It wasn't state-of-the-art Iranian technology. It wasn't a project funded by some foreign power with engineers trained in secret laboratories. It was a pressure cooker, a common kitchen pot, the kind any Afghan mother used to prepare family dinner. When the first MRAP passed over it, the world exploded. The detonation was heard 5 miles away. The 14-ton vehicle was thrown 10 feet to the side. The top hatch flew like a projectile, and inside that armor that was supposed to be impenetrable for American soldiers stood no chance. The most powerful army in human history had been defeated by a pressure cooker, rusty nails, agricultural fertilizer, and a copper wire. But this story doesn't begin in 2009. It begins much earlier, with a military decision that American generals thought they would never need to revisit. A decision based on the absolute certainty that no group of medieval insurgents would ever threaten the technological supremacy of the United States. They laughed at the Taliban, and the Taliban responded with a pot. To understand what happened in Kabul and the rest of Afghanistan, we need to go back to October 2001. When the first American soldiers set foot on Afghan soil, the war lasted literally weeks. The Taliban was swept from power with a speed that shocked even the Americans themselves. Generals were euphoric. Pentagon analysts spoke openly about it being the ultimate proof of the superiority of the American war model. Air power, surgical precision, overwhelming technology. But there was a problem. No one had asked the Taliban what they planned to do next. While Washington celebrated the fall of Kabul, small groups of Taliban fighters dissolved into the mountains, villages, and southern plains. They didn't flee. They simply waited. And while they waited, they studied. Because the Taliban knew something American generals preferred to ignore: you don't need to win a battle to win a war. You need to make the cost of war unbearable for the enemy. It was in this context that the device that would change the entire logic of the conflict emerged. The Americans had a technical name for it: IED, improvised explosive device. But in secret military briefings, another name began to appear with disturbing frequency: the pressure cooker bomb. The logic was brutally simple. A common pressure cooker, sold in any Kabul market for less than $10, has a specific physical characteristic. It is designed to withstand extreme internal pressure before releasing steam. This same characteristic made it the perfect container to hold and direct an explosion. The mechanism was frightening in its simplicity. The pot was filled with ANFO, ammonium nitrate mixed with diesel fuel, a compound any Afghan farmer knew because it was used as fertilizer. Inside the pot, insurgents added fragmentation materials: rusty nails, scrap metal, screws. The detonator could be a cell phone battery, a toy remote control, or simply a pressure plate made of 2 pieces of wood with aluminum foil between them. The total cost, between $30 and $50. The cost of an American MRAP, $500,000. The arithmetic of war was being rewritten in real time, and it took the Americans a long while to notice. In 2003, when the insurgency began to gain strength in southern Afghanistan, the Pentagon recorded 14 IED attacks. In 2004, there were 325. In 2005, over 1,600. By 2007, the number exceeded 9,000. Each year, the Taliban refined the technique, learned from mistakes, and adapted devices to American countermeasures. And the pressure cooker was at the center of it all. But to understand the true magnitude of what happened, we need to talk about the 52 Americans. This number represents a terrifying reality. The statistical reality of a war where the deadliest weapon had no radar or guided missile. Between 2001 and 2014, IEDs were responsible for more than 60% of all American casualties in Afghanistan. In some months of 2010 and 2011, an average of 52 American soldiers were killed or seriously wounded per month exclusively by IEDs. Killed or maimed by devices that cost less than a dinner at a middle-class restaurant. General David Petraeus would later say that IEDs were the most disruptive weapon American forces had faced since World War II. A clinical word to describe what happened when a pressure cooker exploded under an MRAP. Legs torn off, eardrums destroyed, and traumatic brain injuries that turned 22-year-old soldiers into people who would never be the same. The American response was massive and, for a long time, ineffective. The Pentagon created GETO in 2006 with an annual budget that would reach $3 billion to fight a pressure cooker. They developed tougher vehicles, electronic jamming systems, sniffer dogs, and even satellites to detect patterns in the soil. The most advanced technology on the planet was mobilized against a device that used the most basic physics possible. And the Taliban simply adapted. When the Americans installed electronic signal jammers, the Taliban switched to pressure detonators. When dogs began sniffing out info, insurgents used smaller amounts of explosives and more fragmentation. When MRAPs showed resistance to direct blasts, pots were buried on the sides of the roads to maximize the effect on the less protected parts. It was a macabre dance of innovation and counter-innovation, but with a fundamental asymmetry. The Taliban could innovate with $50 and a free afternoon. The Americans needed committees, budgets, and bureaucracy. Among the darkest chapters is what happened to the survivors. The pressure cooker was designed to maim in specific ways. The upward-directed explosion focused its energy on the legs of the occupants. The result was an epidemic of amputations that military doctors had never seen on such a scale. Walter Reed Army Medical Center was transformed. Wards that once treated gunshot wounds became dominated by patients with multiple amputations. Young men waking up to find they no longer had legs. Over 1,800 American soldiers suffered amputations in Afghanistan and Iraq, most caused by pressure cookers. This story did not stay confined to Afghanistan. In April 2013, 2 pressure cookers exploded at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. The Tsarnaev brothers had learned the technique from an online magazine that taught how to build a pressure cooker bomb at home. Afghanistan had exported affordable destruction. The idea that anyone with access to a kitchen market could build a weapon capable of changing the outcome of a war. The Pentagon was disturbed by what this revealed. The asymmetry was not technological, it was philosophical. Americans continued trying to solve with technology a problem that was fundamentally human. The Taliban didn't win because they were smarter or had superior technology. They won because they were fighting at home. Every buried pot was placed by someone who knew the terrain in a way no satellite could replicate. When American troops finally left Afghanistan in August 2021, the Taliban returned to power in 11 days. The story of the pressure cooker was the story of the entire conflict. An arrogant power that underestimated a poor enemy and paid an incalculable price. The Afghan pressure cooker teaches us that real power is rarely where you expect to find it. That creativity born of hopelessness can defeat engineering born of arrogance. The Americans entered Afghanistan with the best planes and tanks and were defeated by people who had a pot, a handful of nails, and determination. This is not a defense of the Taliban. It is a warning. The size of an arsenal does not replace the need to understand the people you choose to face. If you have made it this far, you want to understand what really happened and what it means for the world today. That is why this channel exists. We don't sell easy heroism here. We tell war as it is, complex and brutal. If this story made you reflect, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. Until next time, and keep questioning everything.